Okay, hi everyone. Hello. Thank you very much. Thanks Atelier guys for giving me this opportunity. I know you didn't have to. Thanks for making me go first. Really appreciate that. So I guess it's on me to kind of wake everyone up a little bit, if the coffee hasn't already. I kind of plan on doing that with a lot of audience participation, so I hope you all brought pens and paper and stuff. So some of you know me already, and for that I can only apologise. But if you don't, my name's Cian McCormack. I've been a tester for 5 years now, nearly 6. I've been a Scrum Master for 2 of those, and I'm working for a company called Logic up in Newcastle as a consultant. So I'm going to start with the most cliche question imaginable, really. What can be tested? And the correct answer is obviously everything. So I think that testing has moved on a lot from the days of write test, run test, report results. Most of what we do these days is sort of making observations and providing information as often as we possibly can, really. And I don't think that's just limited to observing the applications that we test. I think that also can be applied to people and process. I'm kind of just trying to take modern testing principles, which if you don't know already, I strongly suggest you go and look up. And I just want to kind of apply them in as many ways as I can imagine, really. So in that sense, I've actually been observing myself as well, which is really deep, I know. It's all in the name of efficiency, though. But before I go into some of my thoughts and what I've been doing about them, I'm going to start off with some audience participation. So if you've got a pen and paper, now's your time to whack it out. Sorry. So all I'm going to ask you to do is write the letters A to J, the numbers 1 to 10, and then 1 to 10 again, but in Roman numerals, if you can. I'm going to time you. Just shout when you're done, please. A few of us ready? All right, go. You've already done it. Done? 10 seconds, that's not bad, that's not bad. Okay, so about 10 seconds, give or take. So now I want you to do the same thing again, only this time alternate between letters, numbers, and numerals. So A1I, yeah, and so on and so forth. Go. Anyone done? Okay, yeah, that took you about twice as long. Did you all find that kind of a lot more difficult the second time? Yeah, kind of you pause when you... Pausing when you put your pen to your paper every time, yeah? Your brain's got to catch up with your hands for a second. So, I mean, why do we think that was? Super simple example of cognitive multitasking. So what do I mean by that? I mean, we all know multitasking is bad, right? It's just doing 2 or more things equally badly at the same time. But it's also complete bullshit. I mean, it's a complete misnomer. Brains can't do more than one cognitive thing at the same time. So really it should be called task switching. And that's what that exercise actually demonstrated. You had 3 tasks, and the first time you switched at the end of each task. But the second time, you had to switch, I don't know, like 30, 35 times. So much more difficult. So every time you started, it's because your brain needed a second to kind of switch tasks. And we cause ourselves a ton of unnecessary hard work when we do that. It's kind of difficult to avoid, though, even more so these days with technology and devices throwing streams of information into our faces constantly, 24/7 from every angle. And that's before even taking the work tasks into account that we have to concentrate on a daily basis. Bet you've all been trying to read this while I'm talking at the same time, kind of getting my point a little bit, yeah? It's the epitome of a bad habit in that you're not going to be able to stop unless you actually put some effort in to try. So what I want to discuss is why you should really put that effort in, why you should make that real change to how you work and the kind of benefit that you'll get from that. And then some of the things that I've been doing to try and stop myself from being an idiot. So, as I said, all of this was in the name of efficiency. To begin with, it was anyway, until I started actually looking into ways that I could improve myself. And then as I got into some of the studies behind it, some of the things that have actually been proven by these studies made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. It's really scary, some of the things, actually. So we'll start with Stanford University. They did this study in 2009, which is quite a long time ago now. But, I mean, as devices get better and better, we just get worse and worse at multitasking. So really, it probably stands more true today than it did 10 years ago. So, yeah, they said people who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information do not pay attention, control their memory, or switch from one job to another, as well as those who prefer to complete tasks one at a time. So for ages before that, social scientists believed people who appear to multitask must have superb control over what they concentrate on and what they think about while they're multitasking. So to prove this, they set up this study, which was a series of 3 different tests with 2 different groups of people, those who multitask regularly and those who don't. They called it a high media multitasking index because they're all fancy and shit. So in order to find these 2 groups of people, they devised this really simple questionnaire, which I do have, but not with me, I'm afraid. If you are interested in seeing that, having a go for yourself, finding out whether you're one of these people that are awful at multitasking but just don't realise, then hit me up and I'll send it to you because it's really interesting to find out. So anyway, let's go on to the first study because I'm going to make you all do it. Sorry. If you can see it, that is. So I'm going to show you 3 pictures in a row, and I just want you to tell me if 3 sets of pictures. So it'll be, you'll see a flash and then a second picture, and all I want you to tell me is if the red rectangles have swapped places in the second image compared to the first. So we're going to go through those one at a time, okay? Just shout if you think they've changed or not. Okay? Let's have a look. No movement? Correct. Let's have a look at the next one. Very good. One more. Okay, yeah, that was pretty easy. Imagine doing that 60 times in a row, though. Can get a little bit stressful, I imagine. So what the study actually found was that the people who multitask regularly were constantly distracted by the blue rectangles. They were unable to separate the extraneous information from the important stuff, which was completely contrary to their original beliefs. So the researchers thought, oh no, you're cutting some slack. Maybe they're actually just better at storing and organising the information in their minds. Maybe they're better at memory tasks. So I've got one of those for you. So I'm going to show you a sequence of letters now, and I just want you to tell me if the letter you're looking at matches the one that showed up 2 before it. So not the one immediately before it, the one before that. Okay? Again, just shout if you see that letter. Kind of slowly petered out towards the end there. I don't know if it was just me, but yeah, I found that really tough actually when I did it because how slowly it goes. It's really hard to actually keep your concentration on it. I don't know if you felt the same or not, but again, all the study found was that as they saw more and more letters, they became more and more jumbled because they were just not able to sort and store this information that they were constantly being hit with. So the final task then, after failing 2 in a row, they really wanted to find out their secrets, so they thought maybe they excel at switching between tasks. So we're going to give that a go now. It's the last one, I promise. So now I'm going to show you letters and numbers at the same time, but before I do, I'm going to tell you what to concentrate on. So if I ask you to concentrate on a number, I want to know if it's odd or even. And if I ask you to concentrate on a letter, I want to know if it's a consonant or a vowel. Just, again, shout at me. Okay, that went well. Someone said 4. Thanks, that is the number. Oh dear. Right, so again, maybe it's a bit too early. But yeah, it just showed that they couldn't help thinking about the task that they weren't doing. They were always drawing from all of the information in front of them without being able to keep things separate in their minds. So in every trial, the high MMI guys were beaten by those who preferred to complete their tasks one at a time. Simple. Just have a quick think now about how many plates you spin at work on a daily basis with that in mind. Bit scary, maybe? I don't know, hopefully. If it's not, let's have a look at the next study. So Sussex, this study is slightly less interactive, by the way, unless anyone's got an MRI scanner available, but I don't think so. So prior to this, research demonstrated that your brain structure changes upon prolonged exposure to novel environments and experience. So basically, your brain changes shape depending on what you do on your day-to-day life, which is scary in and of itself, if you ask me. But this study then went a little bit further, and it proved that those with a high MMI had smaller grey matter density in the ACC, which is an area of the brain that controls stuff like cognitive control, emotional and motivational processes, short-term memory. So the more grey matter you have in that area, the kind of more you're able to do those things or do them well. So essentially the TLDR is multitasking literally gives you brain damage. Still not scary enough? Then I don't really know what I can do for you. So obviously it's not too worrying when you just everything on the internet. Clearly not concentrating entirely on the task. Answer a Skype while you're in the middle of a call, and then someone asks you a question on that call, and you're like, yes? I don't know. I mean, I bet everyone here has tried to test something while you're on a call, right? It's just what you do, isn't it? Because the call's pointless, or I don't know. But, I mean, do you want bugs? How you get bugs? And obviously not to mention the lasting brain damage thing. So here's where I'm going to go along with the, I promise I'm not a motivational speaker type stuff, but yeah. So it's fair to say that mental fatigue gets to everyone. Dangerous. I mean, not just premature emails, but missed defects that cost people a ton of money, or crossed wires that cost someone their house if you're an electrician. All walks of life can suffer from this. Obviously, we can't just stop. So the first thing to do in my mind is to come to terms with how your brain actually works, right? So I've said that while we take in information from all of our senses all the time, we can only cognitively focus on one task for prolonged periods of time. I mean, have you ever tried focusing on the guitar and the drums and your favorite song at the same time? It's really, really difficult to keep them both on separate levels. You can't concentrate on them both. Give it a go. I mean, how many of us turn down the music in the car when we're lost so we can de-lose ourselves easier? Everyone? No, just me? Yeah, it's just healthier for our brains that way. And personally, I'm inclined to trust the brain. I think it knows itself. It was the only organ that got to name itself. So, believe me, it wasn't easy forcing myself into new routines. I could feel my mind arguing with me every time I tried to kind of adhere to this new regime. So just understand that you're going to have to put some effort in to get the reward. So hopefully I've convinced you that's worth it at least. And prepare to fail a lot, because you're going to catch yourself being distracted constantly. But the fact is, at least you'll notice, and that's kind of the first step. So here we go. What can you actually do? So no one likes feeling like they haven't achieved anything. When you get to 4 p.m. and it suddenly hits you when you look up from that BuzzFeed article that you were reading for the last half an hour that you haven't actually done that one thing that you really wanted to get done today. and you're like, oh, fuck. So what's the first thing the brain does to compensate for that? Just do all the things, right? You just grab everything you can and you try and do it all at once. Kind of stupid, really, if you ask me, because all that's going to do is increase the amount that you have to task switch, increase your mental exhaustion, decrease the amount that you actually get done by the end of the day. You're going to end up there till 6:30. So to avoid that feeling, what I started doing when I sit down at work was just picking up that one thing that I'd either assigned to myself yesterday or remembered last night, or sat down and just remembered that I really wanted to do, and I'd just fucking do it. Yeah, just get it done. And that feeling of achievement, however brief it was for me, it kind of gets you over that fear of mental exhaustion, kind of got me motivated for the rest of the day, or at least the next 15 minutes. So once I'd got that practice down, I started applying it frequently over the rest of the workday, kind of just identify the 20% of your work that's going to yield the highest reward, or you think is going to yield the highest reward, and apply that morning practice to it, but with a bit of a difference. So I work in a 20-minute sprint, take a 2-minute break, and I do that 3 times in a row, so that's an hour's worth of work. And do that 3 or 4 times a day. You still have plenty of time for the other 80% of your work, like the emails, the documentation, the meetings, the ceremonies, the important but not crucial stuff. Incidentally, actually, I think you should do the same thing in ceremonies as well. Have you ever kind of sat in a meeting and you have that moment of realization where no one's actually concentrating on what the meeting was originally for, and you're actually just having a moan about something, or you're trying to solve something that you just can't solve with the amount of information you've currently got on it. Obviously, you can't tell everyone else in the meeting that you feel like this, because that's incredibly un-British of you. So you just kind of sit there like, guys, just take a 2-minute break. Tell everyone, take a 2-minute break, get up, walk around a bit, whatever, sit back down, reset the conversation, and you're flying. Honestly, I've tried it, it works. Someone told me after I gave this up north that what I'm actually describing is called the Pomodoro technique, which I had no idea. I thought I'd kind of discovered this on my own, so clearly not going to be called the McCormack technique anytime soon, is it? Shame. It's basically just time boxing. You give yourselves a lot of times to actually test the application thoroughly, or walk through your sprint plan with the business reps or whatever, or pair program with the developer. There's kind of really good things that we actually do as testers to actually lend the goodness to the application. And all it'll do, it'll just help you kind of temper even the neediest of workplaces, and it'll regularly give you that feeling of achievement that drives you through the rest of the day, so you don't end up getting bogged down and feeling a bit shitty by the end of the day. And also, if you haven't got the point yet, even when you do it for the right reasons and at the right levels, multitasking is really, really fucking hard on your brain. So give yourselves regular breaks, yeah? You need downtime to blank out your mind. I learned actually that your brain cycles during the day just as it does throughout the night, between sort of states of high alert and low alertness. And all I'm really doing is just trying to learn to honour those states. What I'm actually doing is just giving myself excuses to take breaks all the time, but we don't tell the bosses that. That's fine. But no, seriously, it's not just because it's a rest. It's actually the time when your brain assimilates and stores all of the information that you've learned over the last hour as well. So if you don't take these breaks, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. You're throwing away a bunch of really helpful information just to seem busy, just to seem productive. And seeming productive is something I could give a whole nother talk about, because so many people do it. So many people ask you to do it. But anyway. And lastly, even now I'm working like this, I still catch myself going down all these weird little wonderful thought pathways constantly. I can't help it, it's just who I am. But just keep an open notepad nearby, just scribble your thoughts down, mentally swipe that thought left, and then just carry on with the task that you're currently concentrating on. And you don't have that fear of forgetting your original thought to distract you from the task that you're actually doing, which really helped me. I call it bedside notepad because I do the same thing while I'm sleeping. I find it really important to kind of remember what I was thinking about at 4 a.m. in the morning until I look at it again at 7 and wonder why the fuck I thought shoes for pigeons was a good idea. But there's a few other things I do like to do in the morning, but I couldn't fit them in here, so I happy to chat about them afterwards if anyone's interested. So, number one question I've had before, yeah, it sounds great in theory, but how do you sell it in a working environment? Truth is, not really that tough. You know, I know managers are going to manage and PMs are going to PM and all that, but it's just, yeah. I mean, I guess you can handle it however you want. It's kind of down to how you want to deal with it as a human. Personally, I went down the kind of polite, I'm going to try this, please bear with me route, to some success after educating everyone on why I was doing it. Yeah, but it turns out people don't actually mind if you're unavailable. If they do need you, just leave some way in, like a secret wave or a bat lamp, or something, some way of getting hold of you. So how does this relate to testing? If you ask me, for all of the reasons I mentioned at the start, you know, you can have the most efficient processes and the most efficient workplace in the world, but if the people within it are being constantly distracted by stuff, it's still not very efficient, is it? Yeah, I mean, I believe testers are the sort of soul of any team, really, you know. I think people struggle to understand our role. I think sometimes we're treated quite unfairly. I think we're always thought of last during planning, although maybe that's just my experiences. But, you know, we're always there driving efficiency and giving information about the application to everyone as often as we possibly can, streamlining the team and the project and making sure that everything runs as smoothly as much as we can. Yeah, we sit central to the entire delivery, and that takes an awful lot of brain power. It takes a lot of time and energy, and I just like to think that by changing how I work on a daily basis, I've kind of learned to reserve some of that time and energy for myself. Having not done the stuff that I meant to do. So I've got plenty more time to think about the important things in life, you know, like family and friends and dogs. It's my little boy. It's been done before. Apparently it's even got its own name. Whoops. You know, we all know multitasking is bad. We all know the best way of working. And I know I ran the danger of being one of these motivational speaker type people by talking about this. But if you ask me, the truth is most of the time we just kind of make excuses as to why it doesn't work in practice. Just because, you know, we don't really see that there's any benefit in trying. But personally, I quite like not giving myself brain damage. So yeah, I mean, I was skeptical. I didn't realize that it had quite such a negative impact as it actually does. Until I started practicing it, and personally I find my mindset's a lot better now, happier and healthier and all that. So yeah, I implore you, for your happiness and healthiness, give it a go. Let me know if you do, because I would like to hear about it. Make your workplace great again. I don't know if that's still okay to say, but there you go. Thank you. That's me. Anyone got any immediate questions or anything? Yes?
Are there any cool ways to get into like agile environments where you sort of love conversation and stuff like that, with actually someone conversing with you at the time and kind of concentrating on it?
Sorry, I didn't hear that very well.
Are there any cool ways to get this into like agile environments where we all love conversation?
Any cool ways?
Useful, basically,
I
effective.
don't know, sticky notes are always cool, aren't they? I guess just discuss it with your team, really. So the guys that I work with, I've tried to sort of get us all to work in this sort of way. It doesn't always work, because obviously some of us are being pulled into meetings with various business reps at different times. But when we're all sprinting for an hour at the same hour, yeah, there's a lot of immediately tangible outcomes that we get from that. So I don't know about cool, but definitely just explain it to the guys and see if they're interested in giving it a go. Yes.
Just to like kind of go on the agile thing. So one of the Pomodoro things is that basically you measure how many you can do in an hour. So you can say like, I can do like, you know, I don't know, 9 Pomodoros a day, which means that you can essentially start to kind of like quantize your output during the day, essentially. So if you're thinking about like, you know, story points or how long it can take you to do a particular job, that like essentially allows you to start doing a burn down job.
Yeah, like micromanaging your metrics of your personal output on a daily basis.
I mean, obviously that kind of is contradictory to what you're talking about, mindfulness, but you know, it is kind of.
It's an interesting concept, at least. You know, from the mind of a manager, the easier that it is for them to.
Well, I think it's also for you, right? Because if you're trying to communicate how much stuff you can get done, it's good for you to understand that, you know, like on average you can do maybe 9 20-minute kind of bits of work.
Before you start to.
Because you're not taking on too much, you know, you're
Yeah.
kind of able to figure it out. So.
That's cool. I might give that a go. Thanks. Anyone else? If not, I'm
I
gonna.
was going to say, sometimes meditation is good. I think it can increase grey matter in your brain or something like that. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's good for concentration.
It can be.
Doing things like that, you know, like read a book or something, and don't read all the shit stuff. So you're
Yeah.
jumping from things to things. So yeah, I'm just going to say it's good.
Yeah, blanking out your mind.
Yeah, concentrating.
Always helps. Yes.
I kind of find that meditation helps me to focus on one thing at a time. That you then practicing that skill, which is exactly what you're talking about applying at work, is just doing one thing at a time.
Yeah. Sorry, what was I going to say? Yeah. So the idea of focusing on one thing at a time. I can't remember who it was, but I saw a thing recently where they were actually treating being able to focus as a skill in itself, which is a really interesting way of thinking about it, and meditation definitely helps with that.
Skill you need to practice.
It is, yeah, definitely. If that's everything, I'm going to take a seat. Thanks, everyone.